Great. Hi, Kim. It's nice to see you again.
Hi there, lovely to see you, Andrew. Thank you for inviting
No,
me.
pleasure. So just to sort of for other people's benefit, how we actually connected was you signed up as a participant on my mood and food course. And we had a chat after that. So the full title of the course is Mood and Food, How to Dissolve Severe Stress, Anxiety and Depression Naturally. And I always, if possible, like to have a quick chat with people, A, how they found the course, B, how they came across it, B, what's your story? And I think when we had that chat, I just got this overriding impression that you got a very powerful story around a particular theme. And it's a theme that I feel very passionate about too. So we thought we'd have a conversation around the topic, what people need to know about alcohol, depression and anxiety to enjoy a happier, healthier life. Because I think we've both got something to say on this. And it's quite relevant in January. Lots of people are thinking about maybe not drinking this month. We're in lockdown. There's lots of pressure around, lots of stress. So I thought what we could do to start with is just a little bit of a brief backstory on each of us, only insofar as it's kind of relevant to the topic, Kim. So just say a little bit about your story and in particular how it cross relates to this topic of conversation.
Okay, Andrew, thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed your mood and food course. That is something that I was looking into myself, obviously, because the microbiome and the gut-brain connection is really important to me for my work. But taking myself back over many years, I come from a really sociable family. In the East End of London, there was pubs on absolutely every corner. My family always used to have weekend parties. From a teenager, I can remember just partying and drinking all of the time. And that was a natural, normal thing for us to do. And I carried that on with me as if it was really normal. It was just a normal thing to do. So because everybody in my environment did that. And little did I realise that as I got older, it became more and more of a problem. It became more often. It became like a bit relied upon, and yeah, it got worse. And I was making wrong decisions with the drinking habits. I was making unfocused choices. I wasn't really liking myself, if you like, because once you get problems and challenges, which we did later on in life with relationships and marriage and everything that goes on, the drinking became worse. And I was even hurry. I wanted to do it when the kids come home from school. I was couldn't wait for them to come in so that I knew they was home safe, and then I could start the drinking. And it was just like a normal thing to do. And I did go through a divorce later on in life, in my 40s, and that was my choice. And then the drinking became worse, and I was relying on it, and I felt as if it was numbing my problems, but it was also making me forget. I was forgetting things. I wasn't doing as much as I should have been doing, because I was feeling lazy. All I could think was, when's the next drink coming? And I think it spoiled me. And basically at the end of it, I did have a big crash and realised that I had to do something about my life and something about my drinking habits. So yeah.
Bless you. Gosh.
Pretty.
One of the questions that's sometimes asked is, did alcohol cost you more than money? How would you respond to that question?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, actually. It did. I suppose it did when I think about it. It did cost me more than money. It did. But it's funny enough, going through hard times back then when I was going through the divorce and I had teenagers and, I had just a basic part-time job and, money wasn't affluent. It wasn't coming into where I was kind of like living hand to mouth, like really, really basically back then. I still found the money for the drink.
Interesting.
Miraculously, because I feel that what you want, what you're focusing on, it's going to come to you. And I did, even though I was drinking the cheapest of the cheap wine, anything that I could get, the money was always there.
Isn't that
but in the long it is interesting. I've never been asked that question before, but it is very interesting when you ask that. in my eyes, when I think about that, I think about the law of attraction and what we do actually attract to ourselves. And I was thinking, woe is me. This is all going wrong. You know, my language was, oh my God, I didn't even think to blame myself for the mess that I was in, you know. So I had to study after that. But it cost me a lot. I think I probably would have been in a different position a lot earlier back then if I didn't focus too much on the alcohol and the drinking. And yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's very powerful for people to hear. And it really resonates with me, actually. I mean, very briefly, my story. I found myself in a psychiatric hospital with severe depression in 2006 after a prolonged period of work-related stress. And it wasn't the first time it had happened. And I seemed to be the victim of life circumstances when life got tough every 10 years or so. And again, loss of my marriage, loss of access to my kids. And as I lay there heavily medicated in hospital, I realized I needed to change my life. Sometimes we have to hit the bottom to come back up, don't we? And it was interesting what you were saying about that experience. And I resolved to make some lifestyle changes. But before that, I actually put on a heck of a lot of weight on antidepressant medication, 3.5 stone. In 3 months, it took me to put on 3.5 stone and longer to lose it. It was about twice as long to lose it, but I did make a concerted effort. But I've come across a lot of information on alcohol since, and I have a short piece on it in the Mood and Food course, but really wanted to have this conversation to grow that understanding a little bit on both sides and for people to be able to benefit from that. Because I think many of us have used alcohol as a way of dealing with stress quite habitually, haven't we?
Yeah, oh, definitely habitually.
Yes, and the definition of a habit is something that we kind of do unconsciously. So if you think about habit, the purpose of a habit is actually quite useful. In other words, it takes a cognitive load off the mind. It gives us something that we can almost do on autopilot, driving being quite a good example. There are lots of other things that we can do, happily listen to radio, etc. But the point is that when things are going on like that subconsciously, we're doing damage without even realizing. And as a way of dealing with stress, it's very dysfunctional, isn't it? Despite the fact that in the moment, it seems to be a really cool, useful thing to do.
Yes. And it's not cool.
No.
It's not cool. Looking back at being a youngster, 16, it wasn't even 16. Thinking back, we were allowed into pubs at the age of 14. We wasn't allowed at 14, but no one stopped us when we was 14 because it was cool to do that. You'd go back to school and say, yeah, we was down the pub Friday, and thought it was highly cool and hilarious, when it really wasn't. Because if my kids come home now and said, like, at 14 years old, I was down the pub, I'd be totally disgusted.
Things have definitely changed there. But on the other hand, this point about alcohol being almost a part of the social fabric, and I think for a lot of people, they cannot imagine being able to function socially without it. And I think this is a big myth, isn't it? It's the consequence of very effective marketing. I mean, this stuff is very well packaged in nice colored liquids, very, very attractive bottles, and very well promoted. But and this is really quite stark, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's a poison. Ethanol is a poison, and it's used as an additive to petrol to make cars run better. Why would you want to put that in your body, even in smallish quantities?
I know. It's not until you wake up and get out of it and come out of the other side that you actually realise that. And I didn't realise how good it feels to feel good. Because it was a fog. It was a fog. It was a blur. And we can easily get rely on that habit, and that brings it to the front. It's ethanol, what goes into petrol. So it's a toxic poison in our body, and our body doesn't need it.
It doesn't. And there's a wonderful book that I listened to recently, and I think I mentioned to you, and we had a brief chat. It's called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, and she talks about what if we decided that it was cool to drink motor oil,
Yeah,
And it was well marketed as a social nicety. Because
yeah,
remember that first time you tasted alcohol? It tasted vile,
yeah.
didn't it?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yet we get into this social way of doing it, and we think, oh yeah, it'll be fine. But actually, what she says in this book, which is so powerful, is there's not an awful lot of difference between somebody who'll enjoy or make an occasional toast at a wedding and somebody who's on the street with a brown paper bag drinking out of it. It's a continuum, but nobody knows where that line is, and
No.
therefore this stuff is really quite toxic, quite dangerous, and
Yeah.
we're kind of led to believe that, in moderation it's fine. What's
Yeah.
your view on moderation before I give you mine?
Moderation, my view. I suppose everything is okay in moderation.
Alcohol I'm
It just,
particularly thinking about.
yeah. I don't. They say about red wine is supposed to be good for you because of the red grape. And maybe, I don't know, half a glass 3 times a week with your dinner is probably moderation. Um, Probably anything more than that is too much. I mean,
Yeah,
even in my world now, half a glass 3 times a week is too much.
very
You
interesting you
know.
say that, and I think that
Mm,
there is this challenge with alcohol as an addictive substance that I've got a family member who's going through Alcoholics Anonymous at the moment, and she physically cannot touch it for the rest of her life because there is a
yeah,
slippery slope as soon as she's had
yeah,
one, because it is that addictive
mm,
as a substance. But as I say, none of us knows that point where that addiction will kick in to that extent.
that's true.
Just to
Yeah.
come back on the red wine thing a minute, it's interesting, isn't it? I've got a friend called Craig Beck who's written a book called Alcohol Lied to Me. And Craig says, isn't it interesting that if somebody has a heart attack, they don't wire them up to a bottle of Merlot, so it's not actually going to be that good for your heart.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he makes a very important point that I think the benefits have been overstated. There are a lot of things that we can do that might give us some short-term symptom relief, but aren't a good long-term strategy. And
mm,
I put alcohol in that category.
yeah, yeah,
I think it seems that it can give us some immediate relief from stress, but actually, all the evidence shows that people who drink heavily are much more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety than
yes.
those that don't.
Oh, most definitely. It's a brain fogger,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes,
It's definitely a brain fogger. I mean, I never even used to get hangovers when I was drinking every single day because I feel that it was in my bloodstream and it didn't affect me the next day.
yeah,
So I didn't even think about that until you actually get away from something, get off of it. And if you do go back to it because of an occasion or a little celebration or a birthday or a wedding or something, it's like, oh my God, this has gone straight to my head. You don't even realize because it's not in your system anymore.
no. You've cleaned
You
up
know?
your inner terrain,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
when
That's
you
correct.
introduce a small amount of toxicity in
Yeah,
that way, it has a
yeah,
much bigger impact. And
yeah,
that's how we need to see this. And when we build up this tolerance to alcohol, that's when we are, creating longer term problems down the track.
yeah,
And I think, it is a natural depressant as opposed
yeah,
to an antidepressant.
yeah,
And therefore that there is some real risk. Now we might be talking, and some people might be thinking, well, who are they to? But we're not telling anybody to do anything. What we're
no,
trying to do is raise some awareness
yeah,
about this substance, which is a legal toxin.
yeah,
If we think about what's happened to tobacco, it's still
yeah. I was
legal
going to
to
say that.
use it,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
there's been a massive change in public perception in the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, tobacco used to be given to people on their national service as a ration, free of charge.
Wow,
Um,
wow.
we're not there with alcohol yet.
No.
There's all this ongoing debate about, beneficial in small amounts. Personally, I don't believe that. I don't think it is. I think
Mm.
what we're talking about here is the mindset. And if we believe something will be helpful to us, there's a massive placebo
Ah,
effect.
there's the word, belief.
Yeah.
That word is powerful.
Mm.
Belief. Oh my God, I can't express that enough. Belief is everything. If somebody on the TV or on the radio, or if they say they're an MD or a doctor or something like that, and they say, but it's good for you because they believe it and it's been advertised on the media, any media platform, people are going to believe it. And the more it's said, the more it's put out there on the media, the more people it's going to sink deeper into our belief systems. This is why I got rid of my TV several years ago. And when I do listen to the radio, it's normally foreign radio station, because then I can't understand what they're saying on the news. Because I am not anyone. I don't want to be programmed in what the media want to program me with.
This is fascinating, Kim. And I'm exactly the same. I have no TV, haven't had a TV for 10 years, and would rather be selective about what I pay attention to, because the power of this drip, drip, drip feed into the subconscious mind day after day after day, it's incredible. And I think many of us don't really know why we do what we do. But beliefs are so important. Let's just deconstruct a belief for a minute. What is a belief? It's a very strongly held set of thoughts, no more. And thoughts are hugely ephemeral when we think about it. We can wake up having a particular thought about something, and then for whatever reason it may not happen, and the thought just goes away. I think thought is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. It causes people to start wars. It causes people to do crazy things. People take their lives on a momentary thought, which they choose to act on. Terrible, terrible things. So sad. And when we begin to understand the power of thought, there's a wonderful quote from William Shakespeare. It's actually in Hamlet. There is nothing good or bad, only thinking makes it so.
Yeah, that's true.
From Hamlet, Act 2, Scene 3. And I think Shakespeare's pointing to something really profound here. And we need to be aware that our thoughts are not true, and very often they're not what I would call real. But we take them as that. And I think that particularly with alcohol, that whole effect can be exaggerated. And we defend our beliefs with our life, don't we, Kim?
Yeah, we do. And we can change our beliefs at any time.
Of course we can. It's ephemeral as a thought.
Yeah, but it's so powerful. We are powerful humans, aren't we? But we can change our beliefs at any time, and we can always look on the positive.
Yes.
A healthy side of life.
I agree. And I think that's something else we wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about happiness and alcohol, because one of the perceptions out there is that I need alcohol to be happy and to have a happy social life and to be able to exist in society and blah, blah, to do X, Y, and Z. What's your take on that?
I don't think that's true. We do not need to have alcohol to be happy, because I've been to many celebrations and parties where I have outrun, all the people that were drunk, and I'm still alive and awake and with some stamina and gumption, and I'm still, it's fine. Because I know the next day I'm going to feel brilliant and everybody else is not.
Yeah, and it's very easy for us to sound a bit virtuous about this, isn't it? But we're not. All we're saying is that you have more choice than you realize. And this substance, which is being marketed at you, it's just the elixir of happiness, it's just not that. It's a fraud.
I think in my world, in my life, I've found the elixir of happiness is mindfulness meditation.
Oh, couldn't agree more. And exercise in nature.
Oh, definitely exercising.
Which is very mindful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nature is everything. Nature is my world.
Isn't it wonderful? I think so. We're talking about some of the alternative ways of dealing with stress, anxiety, and depression here, which aren't alcohol based. And I think this is an important sort of angle to take. So let's say, okay, we're saying alcohol isn't good for you. What are the alternatives? Well, we just mentioned a couple. So you mentioned meditation, mindfulness. I mentioned exercise, nature. Now I've got something here. You know about this. This is important.
Yes, I do.
I've got some with me as well.
My new friend.
Your new friend. This is for people who don't recognise it. This is wheatgrass, dried wheatgrass. Now, it's a funny one. It's starting to seep into public awareness. Students have been known to take it for scurvy. It's like having 10 doses of vegetables in one go. But what happens
wow.
You mix a teaspoonful of this in a litre of
Yeah.
water like this.
Yeah.
And if you don't
Yeah.
like the taste, go a bit weaker and gradually
Yeah.
build up to 2 teaspoons over 2 weeks. Now, what it is, it's very detoxifying. It's very alkalizing and energizing. It's full of vitamins A and E, iron. It's gluten-free. It is a really good, what I call slight edge health food.
Excellent, excellent.
Can I just very briefly mention the slight edge? You've heard me talk about this on the call. Slight Edge: Secret to a Successful Life is a book by a guy called Jeff Olson, Olson. It's a brilliant book if anybody's listening to this. The basic philosophy is small, simple things compound to produce a massive difference, either in a positive or negative direction, but you have to do them for the impact to be taken. So wheatgrass is classic slight edge. Watching 3 hours of TV a night is classic slight edge. Drinking half a bottle of wine every night is classic slight edge. The metaphor that I like to use it with, you've probably heard this anyway, but I'll put it out there, is would somebody rather have £1 million today or a penny compounded, i.e. doubled in value every day for the next 30 days? So penny, 2p or 8p. And as you well know, the penny compounded comes to over £5.5 million in 30 days. But most people are going at health and wellness, particularly in January, like they're trying to win the million today.
Yes.
And they'll do the same with booze as well, try and come off it, for example. So the point is that you can have a much bigger benefit by making small, sustainable changes in the same way.
Yeah, in the long run.
Yeah.
Yes.
By not quitting when things get tough in the first 30 days, and also by not expecting the results immediately, which is the trying to win the million today. I just wanted to put that one out there for people.
That's a brilliant analogy, Andrew.
It's the philosophy of nature, and we go against it at our peril, and we think we know best. You know, we're humans, we've evolved beyond nature. No, we haven't.
Yeah. we have to go back to nature, because it was only 100 years ago that chemicals were introduced.
Yes.
And medicines and everything, and the witches were banned, the witches were drowned, but all the good stuff, all the natural stuff, all the herbs, you know, all the fruit, the veg, oh my God, it's massive. It's all gradually coming back because people are waking up.
Yes.
People are realizing that health is a top #1 value in life. If you haven't got health, you haven't got anything.
I think that's so true. I think that's so true. And people are seeing this more than ever at the moment. And I think, just circling back to where we started the conversation with alcohol, if you want to be healthy, alcohol is not a part of your regime.
No, I mean, I've lost family members from alcohol abuse. I've spoken to you before about it. I lost my brother 2 years ago. He did drink. He did love a drink, and things happened that I won't mention here, but it wasn't good, the drink, alcohol abuse. And I had my mum's sister, my aunt. She actually died of that as well. That wasn't pretty. So you'd think, you learn, you see this stuff going on, you have to learn, you have to pick it up, you have to take it on board. I mean, do we want to have a good, healthy life? Do we want to feel good? I know that when I pass away, I don't want to pass away full of pain, with loads of things wrong with me. I want it to be natural, and I want to feel natural. I don't want.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think there's so much more that we can do and become aware of, which may not be open to us at the moment. And that's why you and I are sharing this information. Because, to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, as Einstein would say, is the definition of insanity. And I think this particular virus that is circling the world at the moment is shining a light on a lot of things, not least health. And anything that we can do to improve our health and boost our immunity has got to be a good thing. I'm all in favor of vaccination, but I think that we can't just outsource our health to a vaccine.
No, I don't feel that either. I feel if you can look after yourself, drag yourself away from the TV and start Googling, start researching, start looking into your health and your immune system and what is good for your immunity and your, supplements,
Absolutely.
probiotics. We've
Yeah,
spoken about
gut
that as
health.
well.
Yeah.
And breathing exercises,
Yes.
you know, look into that, because your breath
Yes.
is everything. It can circulate your whole body
Yes.
and reset your body.
Yes.
So
I couldn't agree more. No, it's wonderful.
yeah.
So let's just provide some sources where people can provide a bit more information. So if people want to find out a bit more about you, Kim, where's the best place to go?
Okay, so I have a website called, it's just my name, kimwymer.com. And I've got my website. I've also got an online course as well, where you've got your course on
Yes,
Udemy.
yeah,
Can
brilliant.
I mention
Ooh,
that?
what's your course called?
Great. It's called Happy Days Coaching,
Lovely.
Positive Thinking for a Higher Vibe Life.
Great. Well, I've just started reading your book. In fact, I've got it here.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
It's lovely. And just a quick plug for mine, called Fit for
Yeah,
Business: How to Deal with Stress and Enjoy a Healthy Work-Life Balance.
I'm waiting for yours
Yours
to
is
arrive.
coming. Yours is
Looking forward
arriving.
to
We're
that.
swapping books because I think there's some similarity in stories.
Excellent.
And the other thing I want to say is I've got a website at thementalhealthcoach.com, which has got not only the course that Kim studied, Mood and Food, but also a free course, 7 steps to dissolve stress naturally. So I would encourage anybody listening who's piqued by what we've said, whose curiosity has been piqued, just have a look at that, thementalhealthcoach.net. So look, it's been lovely to talk. I'm sure we could do some more of this. It would be kind of fun. I think there's some really interesting and similarity in stories. So thanks so much, Kim, and look forward to speaking again.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. It's been lovely to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.